There is a question that comes up at dinner tables, in offices, and in the occasional too honest taxi ride. Sometimes it actually gets asked. Most of the time it gets thought and then quietly put away. The question is, am I too old for this whole AI thing? This video is for the people who have thought it. We meet a particular kind of audience often enough that it deserves a video of its own. Late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Not because age matters in any moral sense, it does not, but because the on-ramp to AI in 2026 is heavily slanted toward people who already had a tech background when the wave started. If you spent the last 20 years in marketing, in logistics, in healthcare, in education, in trades, in finance, in any of the 100 careers that did not require you to read a developer documentation page on a Tuesday afternoon, then the conversation that everyone seems to be having around AI right now can feel like it started without you. That is not a failure on your part, it is just timing. What we hear from people in this group when they let their guard down a little is the same shape every time. They do not want to ask their kids, partly because the kids will be patient for exactly 4 minutes and then start sighing. They do not want to ask the younger colleague at work, because that conversation tends to come with a hint of, really, you do not know what an LLM is? So they Google. The first result tells them about API endpoints. The second one assumes they already understand tokenization. And the third is a paid course pitching itself at people who already know enough not to need it. So they close the tab and they go to the next meeting where somebody says, we should look at AI for this. And they nod and they write it down and they do not say a word. That cycle is the thing we want to interrupt. A small honesty moment because it matters for what comes next. I am 60 plus myself. The gray hair on this avatar is not a styling choice. It is a description. So I am inside the demographic this video is talking about. The reason I can be on camera explaining this stuff is not that I was born with some special intuition for it. It is that I had the unfair advantage of almost 4 decades of working inside IT. Most of my peers did not. They worked in fields where their expertise was real and valuable and had nothing whatsoever to do with the inside of a computer. So when somebody my age or a decade younger tells me they feel left behind on AI, I do not think that is a character flaw. I think it is the natural consequence of having spent your career doing other useful things. You did not miss the train. The train just left from a different station than the one you were standing in. Now, once you put it that way, the question reshapes. The question is not, am I too old for AI? The question is much smaller and much more useful. The question is, do I know enough to follow the conversation when it shows up at my table? That is a fundamentally different question. It is achievable, it is bounded, it does not require you to become a developer or a prompt engineer or anything else that ends in ER. You do not have to build AI. You have to be able to follow a conversation about AI when it happens in front of you. That is a much smaller mountain. So what does enough to follow actually look like? Let me name it concretely. You need a working vocabulary of maybe 15 to 20 terms. Words like model, prompt, training, inference, token, context window, API, RAG, agent. Each of those has a one-sentence plain language explanation. None of them require code. You need a mental model, a small set of pictures in your head of what an AI actually does when you talk to it. Not the math, the shape. You need to know what it can do well, what it does badly, and what it does badly while sounding confident. That last one is the category that gets people in trouble. You need to have tried it once, properly, not by reading about somebody else's experience, by typing your own sentence into it and watching what comes back. That is it. That is the curriculum. That is the difference between feeling left behind and feeling like a participant. Here is something that should be said out loud because almost nobody says it. You do not need to know everything about AI. You do not need to be able to explain a transformer architecture. You do not need to follow the news about every new model release. Most of the younger people who sound confident about AI do not know any of that either. They just learned the vocabulary earlier. The vocabulary is the gate, not the knowledge. Once you have the vocabulary, you can follow any AI conversation in any office or at any dinner table on the planet. And you can decide, conversation by conversation, whether you want to go deeper into a topic or whether you have enough to participate, contribute, and move on. That is the actual goal, not mastery, participation. So we put together a small course book. Not to make money, to make the on-ramp shorter. It is called AI from Scratch, a plain language course. 8 lessons. Reading time on its own, maybe 90 minutes total if you go through the whole thing carefully, less if you skim. No code, no math, no assumed background, no condescension. Here is how we are releasing it. The first lesson is on the resources page today, the same day this video goes live. One new lesson lands every week after that, for the next 7 weeks. By the end of week 8, the full consolidated book is in your inbox as a single download, yours to keep. It costs nothing. You give us an email so we can send each lesson to your inbox as it appears, and that is the whole transaction. Confirm link, PDF lands, done. If you confirm before for any other resource on this channel, the page recognizes that and skips the second confirmation entirely. Each lesson also gets its own short video on this channel the same week. Free, public, part of the regular lineup. You can read the lesson at your own pace. Watch the video when reading is too much for the evening, or do both. They cover the same material in the same order, whatever works for you. Here is what the book is about, so you know what you would be downloading. Lesson 1. What even is AI in plain language? The 30-second history. Why it suddenly became the thing everyone talks about around 2022 and 2023. Lesson 2. The vocabulary you will actually hear at the office, the dinner table, or the Stammtisch. Model, prompt, training, token, context window, API, RAG, agent. One short paragraph per term, with one example each. Lesson 3. What AI can actually do well, and what it cannot do at all. Plus the dangerous middle category. The things it does badly while sounding confident. Lesson 4. Why some people are excited about AI, and why some people are worried. Honestly, both sides. No cheerleading, no doom. Lesson 5. How to try it yourself without risk. Which free tools to start with. What to type into the first conversation. What never to paste into one. The 2-minute first experience. Lesson 6. What this means for your daily life and what you can ignore. The everything doesn't apply to you principle. Lesson 7. The AI that is already in your phone, your email, your bank app, and your supermarket, without you having clicked anything labeled AI. Lesson 8. How to spot AI-generated content in text, images, and video. The small tells, the bigger tells, the tells that will probably stop working by next year. 8 lessons. Plain English. 1 sitting if you want, 8 if you do not. A note in our usual voice, because we say this every time and we mean it every time. We are not telling anyone they need this course. If you already know all of it, skip the download. We will not be offended. If you have no interest in AI, that is a completely defensible position, and we are not the channel that will try to talk you out of it. The course is here for one specific reason, to take the shame out of asking a basic question. If you are in the group this video is about, and you want a way in that does not assume you already know the answers, then this is what we made for you. Beyond that, every person decides where their curiosity ends. That is not for us to argue with. The course is on the resources page, Faceless, YouTube, Automation, HQ.com/resources. This one is V11, AI from Scratch, Plain Language Course Book, 8 lessons, roughly 90 minutes of reading, built specifically for people who did not grow up writing software. Lesson 1 is online as of today. What even is AI in plain language? Lesson 2 follows next week. By the end of week 8, the full 8-lesson book has assembled itself in your inbox. Email gate, confirm link, PDF lands in your inbox. Same Cloudflare, turnstile, and double opt-in flow we use for every card on the door. And if you have confirmed before for any other card, the page recognizes that via a privacy-friendly cookie and skips you straight to the download. No second confirmation email. One small note while you're on that page: if at any point you would prefer a real human to walk you through this material in a live conversation rather than reading the book on your own, the Mrocon side of our world offers exactly that. One-on-one, 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, depending on how deep you want to go. Same philosophy as this channel. Explain it plainly, no rush, no jargon, no quizzes, no sales pitch in the middle of the call. We are not going to pitch it to you again in any future video. We just want you to know the option exists in case the live format fits you better than reading. The link to those Mrocon sessions also lives inside each lesson PDF itself, page footer, and closing page. So if you find yourself wanting that later, you do not have to come back to this page to hunt for it. The link travels with the file. If you stayed through to here, and especially if any of this sounded like a quiet relief, welcome. The channel just got a little bigger because you are now in it. The next batch of episodes will assume you have the course on your tablet, but each one stands on its own if you would rather just watch. And to be honest, we do not know how AI is going to develop from here either. Nobody does. The platform is shifting, the tools are shifting, the audience is shifting. But if you are curious to find out alongside us, you are very welcome to stay. We will keep working, keep publishing, and keep saying what we see, and you can decide, episode by episode, whether any of it is useful to you. See you on the next one.